Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have another inks comparison video, and this is my favourite Sheen inks comparison number 2. So I think with that, let's swap up some of these inks. I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos, so I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the description, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM, and it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the color of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my currently ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me when I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over. I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here, and I will rinse the nib off several times, and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. So the first ink I have here is Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji, which is a very hot pink. So we'll do an ink swatch. And as you can see, this is quite a hot pink. And this is definitely a favourite of mine. I have to say, I haven't used it much lately, but it is a favourite. It's one I always go back to. So we'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib. So this is Pilot Iroshizuku. And it is Tsutsuji. But that is a very lovely hot pink. If you do like pink inks, and you want a sheening ink, let me show you the rim of the bottle here. It sheens this beautiful gold colour. So if you really are into a pink ink that is going to sheen some gold, then definitely check out this ink. The next ink here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Momiji. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is, like the pink, a hot pink. This is a little bit of a hot red, I would say. So it is maybe a little bit more of the pastel-y pale colour there, but it's quite nice. We'll do a second pass over the top half. Just show the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib. And we'll try and get some sheen out of this as well. And I'm pretty sure it will sheen because it's normally quite a good sheener. So this is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Momiji. And I always think Momiji, it's me, Mario. Because it does make me think of that for some reason. The next ink here is a Diamine Cult Pens exclusive, and it is Robert. Now, this is going to be an intense sheening ink. I'm just letting you know that now. And now that I've said that, we're probably not going to see it on the page, are we? Let's do an ink swatch. Hopefully we do see it on the page. It will be amazing if I've just said that it's an intense sheening ink and then nothing will appear. You can see that this is quite a thick ink. Now I'm going to try and get as much ink on this Q-tip, and we'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or broad or a dry or a narrow writing nib. And I'm actually going to do one more pass because I want to make sure it doesn't prove me wrong here. And I'm going to show you in a moment the rim of this bottle, because I want to say it is insane. So this is Diamine, and it's Cult Pens, and it is Robert. And I really hope it does sheen, because I want to show you the rim of this bottle now. You'll see here, it was difficult getting the rim off, the cap off of this rim of the bottle. It has a huge, huge amount of gold sheen there. And I'm going to try and wipe this off, actually, because it will help, I think, trying to get that cap on and off again in the future. The next ink here is a Herbin, and this is a 1670 ink. And this is Rouge Hematite. And you can see there. Now, this is also not only a sheening ink, but it's a shimmer ink. So I'm going to have to agitate or shake the bottle a little bit just to disperse some of that shimmer. So it's both a sheening and a shimmer ink. So we'll do an ink swatch. Try and get a bit more on there. So you can see here, this is a very nice sort of red, orangey red, I would say, that you can see there. Now, we'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or a broad, or a dry or a narrow writing nib. So this is Herbin, or Herbin if you are using the older bottles, and it is Rouge Hematite. But this is quite a nice red ink. I find it dries a little bit more on the coppery side though. And then the last shimmer ink here is another Herbin 1670, and it's Emerald of Chivor. And again, it is a bit of a shimmer ink, so I'm going to have to agitate this a little bit. I typically find that the Herbin ones, you don't have to agitate it much to get the particles flowing into the ink. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I always find when this goes on, you get lots of specks there, which I believe are the particulate. But for some reason, you just see it on this ink more. We'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib. So this is Herbin. So you've got a bit too much ink on that. Let's hit that off. Herbin. It's gonna take a while to dry that a bit. Herbin, and it is Emerald of Chivor. Emerald of Chivor. But that one will take a little bit longer to dry. So I think let's now take a look at these inks now that they have dried a little bit. So the first ink here is Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji. Now this is still trying to dry here a little bit, and if I bring this closer you'll see that there it is still wet in that top corner. Can you see the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib? You definitely can. Can you see any shading going on? There's definitely some shading in that pulled area. Is there any sheen? Yes, a lot of gold sheen. So Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji is a really beautiful sheening ink, and it's one ink that I really do like a lot. The next ink here is Pilot Iroshizuku Momiji, and this is a very beautiful red, although it does go a little bit more towards a pastel red, I would say. Can you see the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib? Not as much. It's fairly sort of consistent there. Maybe a little bit more orangery sort of on the top half maybe. Can you see the sort of where the ink is pooling in the shaded area? You can. It's definitely some shading going on there. Can you see sheen? Yes, a huge amount of gold sheen there as well. So both Pilot Iroshizuku, Tsutsuji and Momiji are fairly high sheening inks, so you will get a lot of sheen. Although typically you won't see it as much in the writing sample. You do see a little bit more in the Tsutsuji though. The next ink here is Diamine Cult Pens Robert. And can you see the difference between a wet or a broad or a dry or a narrow writing nib? You definitely can. There is a lot of difference, but I'd say, to be honest, the majority of the difference is because of the sheen. It's a sheen monster. And if I bring that up closer here, you will see it has a huge amount of sheen. Now, is there any shading in that pulled area? It's difficult to say because of the sheen, honestly. That sheen is quite intense. So a lot of gold sheen there on what essentially is a maroon coloured ink. The next ink here is Herbin, and it is Rouge Hematite. And this is a little bit of a deviation because it's both a sheening ink and a shimmer ink. And I thought I would show this on camera. So can you see the difference between a wet or broad or dry or a narrow writing nib? You definitely can see a bit of a difference there. Is there shading going on in the pulled area? A little bit here, but not a huge amount. Is there sheen? Yes, there's definitely some goldish sheen going on, and also some gold shimmer as well. So it really does sort of make it pop a little bit more. I still prefer, though, the sheening only inks like Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji and Pilot Iroshizuku Momiji, rather than combining the shimmer and the sheen. Then last ink here is Herbin, and it's Emerald of Chivor. And this typically is a teal coloured ink. Can you see the difference between a wet or a broad or dry or a narrow writing nib? You definitely can. There is a difference there. Is there shading going on? There is some shading in the pulled area. But you'll see there is a lot of sheen, red sheen there, and also shimmer particles as well. So again, this is a sheen and shimmer ink, and you can see the J there where I put a lot of ink down. It's got a lot of shimmer there. So this is quite an intense ink. So if you like shimmer and sheen, then definitely check that out. Personally, though, I do just prefer either the shimmer or the sheening inks and not combining the two. Although I can see how beautiful it makes them in some cases. So there you have it. That's my favourite Sheen Monster inks comparison number 2 video. If there are any of these inks that you like, do let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if there are any other inks you'd like me to check out, do let me know in the comments below. So that's my favourite Sheen Monster inks comparison number 2 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.